Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Christy Zalke. I am a former teacher, a tutor, and a mom of two very active boys. As a busy parent myself, I understand that your time is valuable, and I want to thank you for attending this workshop with me today. I'm extremely passionate about helping growing readers and parents just like you learn the most effective evidence-based ways that you can support your child at home. I also know I have quite a few teachers in attendance today. I am in awe at your dedication and your willingness to continue to learn to enhance your instruction. So I know some of you are here to just learn the best foundational skills to set your child up for success. Some of you are here, maybe you're looking for some new games to implement to switch up your reading routine at home. Some of you might be here, you notice your child's spelling really needs a lot of support. I also know many of you might have a reluctant reader at home, and you might need new tools to reduce the amount of fights or anxiety that revolve around reading and the little time that you have with your children after school or on the weekends. So I've been in this position before as a mom. These games and these strategies have completely transformed our evenings with my reluctant reader. So here are two things that I know to be absolutely true. I know that right now you are doing your absolute best as a parent with the tools that you have while we're living through a pandemic. I also know that during these moments, if your child is feeling frustrated with reading and is feeling like they can't read or they hate picking up a book, this is a moment where we as parents need to jump in to make the biggest lifelong impact on their future, because we're not simply teaching them how to read. We are teaching them all of these really important life skills. So every learning opportunity sits right next to a point of frustration. And we as parents or as teachers have to guide our children through that frustration, through all of that hard stuff, to teach them grit, to keep going when things get hard, and to teach them what it feels like to be resilient and overcome a challenge. In order to do that, we absolutely have to have their buy-in. We have to have their cooperation. That's where these games come in and these strategies. So again, thank you for being here with me tonight. Thank you for being open-minded and curious. Parenting is hard. Oftentimes, it's just relentless. And so I hope what I can offer you today will help you support your child at home. So why do we play word level games? Well, I am so excited to share with you that there has been over 40 years of converging scientific research all around the world with how the brain learns how to read. So even though this research has been around in the medical field, it's been in medical journals, and it hasn't really gotten to educators until kind of a recent movement. I know I didn't learn any of this brain-based research or how the brain learns how to read when I was in my undergraduate or even in my master's, which doesn't seem like too long ago. So this is why I'm just so passionate to share with you a little bit about the research behind why we do the strategies that we do and why we play these simple word level games. This man right here, his name is Professor Stanislas Dehaene, and he is a French neuroscientist, and he's concluded a few very profound findings from his research. He's concluded that all humans were born to learn to experience a language, meaning as you raise your child, they will learn how to speak just by being around you. It's innate inside of them, unless maybe they have a very specific language disorder. But humans are not born to learn how to read, and that's never going to change through evolution. So it's incredible because what the brain does is repurpose different parts of it to teach us how to read. So the same part of the brain where humans learn to recognize faces, that is where they learn to recognize the shapes of letters. Another part of the brain attaches those sounds to the letters. The sounds that connect to the letters make meaning because it's part of spoken language. So as you become an expert reader, You continually connect those sounds and that sound symbol relationship more and more quickly. And the more you do it, the more those neural pathways are built. This happens so rapidly in an expert reader that it almost appears as if the words are individually memorized, except they're not. They are decoded so rapidly using all the different parts of the brain. If they were simply learning just by memorizing, it would be using a very different part of the brain, which would limit them in the text that they would be able to read. So when we teach our children the sound symbol connection, we actually can help them decode any language, in our case, the English language. Your child right now, whether they are excelling at reading, whether they are a struggling reader, whether they are labeled as a student with dyslexia, or maybe you as a parent are sitting there thinking, oh, I kind of see some characteristics in my child with a student that might have dyslexia. It doesn't matter. Reading happens in the brain the same way all around the world. No matter what language, no matter the ability. The same parts of the brain need to be activated in order to learn how to read. So we know we can use teaching strategies to activate the different parts of the brain to literally strengthen neural pathways in the brain. So how do we do it? We do it by training the brain to recognize patterns and words. Once the brain knows the code, it can decode the words for reading and in turn flip it around and use that process for spelling. We do this by explicitly teaching our children a common spelling pattern, then practice it through repeated word reading. It is proven that this is beneficial for all readers, but this type of instruction is absolutely necessary for struggling readers and even more important for students with dyslexia because it strengthens the neural pathways in the brain. The stronger those neural pathways get, the easier reading gets. Now, we also know that 1 out of 5 people show characteristics of dyslexia. So teaching in a very systematic, explicit way teaches all children the gift of reading. That's pretty incredible. Okay, so let's take a step back. How many of you have ever seen your child or a child in your class read a leveled reader? Maybe it's leveled A, B, C, or D. Think for a minute. Are they reading most of the words? Are they memorizing a pattern? Maybe there's one word on the page that's a little tricky. Maybe they're getting their mouth ready for that word, looking at the picture, pulling back, using the context to make sense. For some students, this type of a leveled reader, it provides enough repetitions and they will absolutely excel. Maybe you have that is your child at home. But for about 60% of students, 60, they need a much more explicit, direct approach with lots of repetition. If you are interested in kind of exploring this idea more, if this intrigues you, you can look on YouTube to the Purple Challenge. I've actually linked that video into the presentation that you'll get after tonight. A neuroscientist got curious about this idea, and she ran kind of an experiment with her 6-year-old daughter. I found it absolutely fascinating, so I think you will too. You can take a look at that later. So I have actually had in the past 3 weeks, probably about 7 parents of 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders come to me saying that their child is really struggling to read, especially everything from the pandemic. They feel like they're behind and they're really struggling with comprehension. So kids often use context clues and pictures to help them read fluently, rather than decoding the words as their first and primary strategy. But the older they get, a few things start to break down when the text gets harder. When the words on the page exceed the number of words that the child has memorized, Back here, the child gets stuck. When the pictures aren't in the book anymore, if that starts usually around second grade, third grade, then the child gets stuck. When they don't know the vocabulary, the child gets stuck. So once the sound symbol foundation is set, working right here in the word level provides opportunities for meaningful repetition for word patterns. That builds the neural pathways in the brain to make reading words fluent. Now, once we are fluent with reading words, we move on to phrases, and then sentences. And we pull out a text. Maybe we get fluent with how to read paragraphs, which leads to a book. And we're able to comprehend. This is the power of word level games. Not to mention, once you take the text and put it aside for a second, we focus on that word level, we're reducing the stress, we're reducing the anxiety. The brain is able to absorb more information. You get your child's buy-in so that they learn some grit. And it's fun. It's engaging. The whole family can play. Again, we are raising our kids to learn resilience, and this is one way that we can do it. So before I get into the games, I just want to let you know a few things. I just gave you a ton of information. Like I said previously, I am sending you this PowerPoint. This is pared down. In the PowerPoint that you'll get, it has all my notes in it. It also has the videos that I've mentioned and clips of some of the games that I'll show you today. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking, you've talked a lot about like patterns in words, common spelling patterns. I don't even know where to begin. I will be using some resources today through these games. And at the end of the presentation, I have a QR code that can link you to those. So here is an example of the resource, but what I want to show you right here are the table of contents, which it goes through the scope and the sequence. This is important because each lesson builds on itself, creating that automatic repetition of all of the skills that you teach. It provides that repetition continually throughout the whole program. So I wanted to show you this. I also want to let you know that throughout these games, you are welcome if your child is coming home with words that are already grouped in a similar pattern. You can use those words and adapt that just for the games. My third grader comes home with this. These were his words last week, and the pattern was IRE, ire. So we played all of these games with this set of words, and that's okay too. I just wanted to give you a frame of reference. First, I will show you the game Go Fish. So this is the resource, like I've mentioned, that I have been using, and it simply says the strategy, the short I sound, and this is the Go Fish game number 2. There's more than one game in each. It comes with two of the same pages. And what I do with the students I tutor and my own kids as well is I'll start off and we will be talking about that short I sound. So I take the highlighter, I will highlight it and say, eh. I'm going to highlight it, eh. I'm going to go all the way down. Then I'm going to come up and practice reading. B, it, bit, id, rid, and go through that. Then you can take this, cut them up into all of the little squares. Now, as a teacher, I think this is invaluable because it's very easy to take these two games. You give one page to each student. You can do this whole group. Everybody highlights, everybody says, eh, then you read the words together. Everybody cuts it up, and then you pair your students together and they can play this Go Fish game. So I think it's super fun. I actually, when I was learning this strategy, I wasn't so sure that my second grader would ever play this. It is like very competitive in my household. Who will win? We keep score. We play over and over again. So it might be called Go Fish, but let me tell you, it is very, very engaging. So I wanted to share with you a video of my two boys that I bribed so beautifully to play this Go Fish game for you today. Okay, today we're going to play Go Fish. So each person, they drew 3 cards, and we are working with the consonant, vowel, consonant pattern. And when we have this pattern, that I represents the sound. That's right. All right, why don't you start us off?
Do you have the egg?
Ooh, that's so simple. Egg.
Eggs.
Okay.
No, I did not. Go fish.
Do you have any matches? Read it.
Eggs. Eggs. Eggs.
We have to pay close attention to the letters. All right, your turn.
Do you have in?
Go. You got a match. You can read the words. Gotta read them again.
In.
Go ahead, now set them to the side.
You have in. Head. Head.
Very good. Do you have the word hid?
Yes, I do. Egg. Egg. Do you have
Do you know what kin is? Kin is the family member or relative. Kin. Bradley, do you have the word kin?
Go fish?
All right. So those are my two boys eagerly playing Go Fish for me. But basically, you take out the 3 cards and you can go ahead and go back and forth with that. Now, my boys are 2 different ages. Playing these games is only going to help my oldest just continue to build those word patterns. He already knows those words. That's very simple for him, but it doesn't hurt anything. It just reinforces and continues to strengthen those neural pathways. So the next game I want to share with you is the game memory. So basically, you take the same cards that you used in the Go Fish game, you put them face down. Now, depending on the age of your child, the skill of your child, you might use all of the cards and have a really large space, or you might just pare it down. Here, I'm just going to use 6 just as an example. So player 1 would take a turn and pull 2 cards. Sip, and rid. Oh, that's not a match. Rid. Oh, there goes again. Sip. Oh, we have a match. And you can do that. Another way to adapt this and modify it, if you have a reader who is struggling a little bit, maybe their working memory, they're having a hard time remembering where the words were on the board, you can easily adapt this and play it face up. So to play it face up, player 1 would take a turn, sip and rid. Okay, they don't have a match, they leave it up. Player 2 would go bit, sip. Bit and sip are not a match. Oh, but look on the board. Is there anything else? Oh, sip and sip. They can match those and pull them. So this is a very easy way to modify it. You can even change it while you're in the middle of playing with it if you notice that your child needs that support and needs to feel a little bit more successful with that. Okay, so reading and writing are two sides to the same coin. So when we are working at the word level in reading, we are also working with that same pattern, writing the words as well. Identifying that common pattern in the words while reading and writing just strengthens the neural pathways in the brain. You're going to hear me say that a lot tonight. It requires that correct letter sound correspondence that we talked about that is critical in reading. So here's the thing, before we get into the act of writing and how we can play these games with writing, I need to give you a strategy that is just so simple. It's so easy to use. And I saw with not only my boys, with the children I tutor, and almost immediate, within a week, the writing improved. I'm going to give you that strategy right now. So it is so simple. It's called arm tapping. So basically, we take a word and we break it apart into the sounds, and then we blend it back together. That's that phonemic awareness part I was talking to you about. This is a multisensory technique. When we use our arms across our body, we're taking that information and it's helping it move into long-term memory faster. This is how we do it. We say a word. Let's say we're working on the short A sound. Okay, so I'll say the word cat. We take that beginning sound. First, I want to show you that I'm using my non-dominant hand. I write with my right hand. So I'm using my non-dominant hand and I'm crossing my body to my left shoulder. So I put that beginning sound right here on my shoulder. I put the middle sound where the vowel usually sits right here at my elbow. And then the ending sound right here on my wrist. So if I say the word cat and I say, put it on your arm, let's arm tap it, goes like this. At. And then we blend it. Cat. Can you see my arm? At. Cat. Why don't you try it with me? It's going to feel a little silly because you're going to be doing it in front of a computer, but the only way for you to remember how to do this is to practice with me. So get your arm out, and I'm going to say the word pan. You repeat it, pan. And now we're going to arm tap it together. And pan. We can do it again with Sam. Sam. It's very simple, but this strategy helps the children break apart the sounds and hear all the way through a word. Now, what about if your child is maybe a little bit older and they're working on words that are longer, that have more syllables in them? Well, a syllable is a word or a part of the word that has one talking vowel. Okay, so cat is a one-syllable word. If it is a longer word, like let's say sun hat, or sun hat, we break apart a word into its syllables. We put it in our arm. Each syllable will have a vowel. Okay, so let's practice. Let's do sunset. Sunset. The first syllable is sun. Sun. The second syllable is set. Set. By breaking apart and then pulling the word back together, we're really strengthening all of those neural pathways that are just essential in developing those beginning foundational skills. Now, if you have an older child or even a younger child who you think that they're ready to practice their writing, this is how we do it. First, you're going to say the word, then you're going to put it on your arm, then you're going to write it and write the sounds that you hear. So one way that you can heighten all of these games is just simply by having the children write the words for the game. If you're low on time, use that strategy before. Go ahead, they can highlight, cut apart those words, and just continue playing the game. But if you have more time, we know that writing plus the reading and repetition just really helps move everything to long-term memory. So one way that we can do that is just by creating our own Go Fish cards. So I will share with you, whoops, here we go. I am going to share with you one of the games that we made with one of the kids that I tutor. We were actually working on open and closed syllables. So we were flip-flopping back. He had already learned open syllables. He's already learned closed syllables. This was kind of the review. So at first, I would give him a word, he. He would say he, one syllable, e, and he would write it down. Hem, and he would write all the different sounds down. By writing all of these, I have a whole envelope of them, all of the cards, he's actually continuing to strengthen those neural pathways. Then you can either play Go Fish or you could play a board game. If you can see right here, I wrote little numbers in the bottom of these cards. Very simple, very easy to use. Then you can take any board game, really. Here I have the game Candyland. You can get your little guys out over here at the start. And then they draw a word. They read both words, no, not. And then they get to go one space. Oh.
We can't see anything on the view.
You can't see anything.
No.
Well, I am so glad that you said that because that makes it a little bit difficult. Let's try this again. Now you can see it. I'm sorry about that. So these are the cards that the student I tutor was writing out. And then we wrote the numbers right here. And then here's the board game. Very simple, very easy to use. You can do this same strategy with a different board game of, let's say, Chutes and Ladders. I caution you with this because this game takes forever, which is perfect if you have a lot of practice or you want to reinforce all of those reading patterns. But that's just a really simple, really easy way, very engaging, and they want to play again. The minute you're done, they ask again to play. Now, another strategy to get them to write is to have them create a board game. In that resource that I showed you, there is a blank board game page that you can just print off and have ready. And then you can just dictate the words. If you're working on here with one of the students I was tutoring, we were doing the mixed short vowels. So he's already learned all of the vowels. And now we're just having one lesson to reinforce all of them. I would give him a word, hum. He would go like this, or tap it, hum, and then he would write the word down. And again, they can find little guys and just play the game. All you need to do is grab a dice. I tutored a student on Zoom and she was so meticulous and made just this beautiful board. She did not want the one that was already created. She wanted to make her own, and she had her own rules. And if you got to a certain point, what you had to do, she made it her own, and it was authentic. When you get their buy-in, they're going to continue to want to work. This is what it's about right here. And real quick, I wanted to share with you one more that I actually played last night. We were doing the ooh sound, and I would dictate a word to her. She would get to choose anywhere on the board, write the word, and then we would either write X's or O's. And then she wanted me to play, so she would actually pick a word, read it to me for that extra reading, and then I would write the word as well. So we didn't have two players, but I was able to play with her, and it was absolutely perfect. So I think that it would be very easy to implement this at home. If you have multiple kids, you could give, each kid their own words. All right, and then the last game that I wanted to share with you Let me pull it up right here. Okay, can you see what I see right here? Can you see my presentation? Okay, thank you. So we talked about Go Fish, we talked about the board games. So this game is I Spy. It's, again, one of these strategies that just seems so simple. You probably haven't played it in a while, but when we play it this way, we say, I spy with my little eye, an. Listen closely. I spy with my little eye, an. And then your child will do the same thing back. An fan. A fan. Where's the fan? And they look around to find the fan. This is so simple. And I play this all day long. Especially when we're at Costco or at Target in line waiting. It is such a simple game, and it is it's very engaging. And you're just working on that phonemic awareness, hearing, listening closely to a word, breaking it apart by its sounds, and blending it back together. I also have been in the habit of like, go find your oat. Where is your oat, to my 5-year-old? And he is just pulling this together because I do it all the time. I'm laying those neural pathways. It might just be, quick, I spy, 3 times here and a little bit there, but each time we do it, we're just strengthening his brain, which is just pretty cool. It's especially useful when you are in line and you're waiting to check out somewhere. So I know some of you might be sitting here going, but my child isn't ready to read yet. What do I do if my child can't read the words on the page, or they're struggling to blend them? So if your child can't read the words, we need to go back. Remember that ladder that I showed you? Before the word level reading is the letters and the sounds, and identifying that. Teaching that letter sound correspondence is the fastest way to acquire not only reading, but also comprehension. That's pretty profound. So the way that we do this at brain-friendly reading is through a very straightforward, very simple method called chart tapping. Now, chart tapping is just developing that sound symbol connection. If we stimulate those areas of the brain over and over and over, that's what it takes to become a successful reader. So we do this through just a very simple, straightforward call and response method. So as a teacher or as the tutor, or the parent, I would say, A, apple, as I would tap the chart. The student would just repeat that right back to me. So the chart tapping allows for as much repetition as a child requires in order to develop that automaticity. So in this video, I actually took it with my son. He's 5. I started about a year ago, and within just a very short amount of time, he just took over the chart. He knew it, and he was definitely not going to be the student any longer. To me, being the teacher, or to Miss Kristen, who did the YouTube videos, he was going to be the teacher and I had to be the student, which was absolutely fine because he loved being the teacher. He was continuing to build those neural pathways in his brain. But again, I just did a little bit of bribery and, whoops, oh my goodness. I wanted to show you the video that I took of him being the student this time. So I am going to stop the share for a minute because it keeps going out on me. Okay. 1 second. All right, you're with me now, right? You can see my screen? Ready? Begin. A, apple, A.
A, apple, A.
B, bat, B.
B, bat, B.
C, cat,
C, cat.
C, I, C, E, C, Y, city.
C, I, C, E, C, Y, cities.
D, duck, D.
D, duck, duck.
E, edge, F.
E, edge, F.
F, fish.
F, fish.
G, goat, G.
G, goat, G.
G, I, G, E, G, Y, giraffe, G.
G, I, G, E, G, Y, giraffe.
H, hat.
H, hat.
I, itch, I.
I, itch, it.
J, jar, J.
J, jar, J.
K, kite, K.
K, kite.
L, lion, O.
L, lion, O.
M, map,
M, map,
N, net,
N, net,
O, octopus, A.
O, octopus, A.
P, pizza, P.
P, pizza,
Q, U, queen, Qu.
Q, U, queen,
R, robot, R.
R, robot, R.
S, sons,
S, sons.
S, rose.
S, rose, Z.
T, tiger, T.
T, tiger, T.
U, up,
U, up,
V, van, V.
V, van,
W, web, W.
W, web,
X, box, X.
X, box, X.
Y, yan, Y.
Y, yan, Y.
Z, zigzag, Z.
Z, zigzag, Z.
CK, sock.
CK, sock.
TCH, watch, Ch.
TCH, watch.
DGE, bridge, J.
GGE, bridge.
ING, ing.
ING, ing.
ANG, ang.
ANG, ang.
ONG, ong.
ONG, ong.
UNG, ung.
UNG, ong.
Ing, ang, ong, ung.
Ang, ong.
Good. INK, ink.
INK, ink.
ANK, ink.
ANK, ink.
ONK, onk.
ONK, onk.
UNK, unk.
UNK, onk.
Ink, ink, unk, unk.
Ink, ink, onk, onk, ink, onk, onk. Y, fly, I, Y, baby, E.
All right, so that was my little one tapping what we call the first chart. This is really great to give to the kids even before they are ready to read the words because it's just building that sound symbol connection. We usually introduce the charts before we teach the spelling pattern that I was talking about. This is the first chart. We also have a blends chart to develop that automaticity. By this point, the child already knows that a B says B and an L says O, bull. But by tapping this chart, they develop that automaticity and it just improves the fluency and the speed in which they're reading a word. We also have this right here, the teams chart. And this is absolutely critical because, for example, here, EA wheat E, EA bread and EA great A. EA has different sounds, and it's really tricky and can be really discouraging for kids when they don't have the automaticity yet of even knowing what vowel team goes where. By tapping this chart before we get to those lessons, it gives them access to the code.
Christy,
What was that? Yes.
can I interrupt in
I would love for you
say
to.
something about the chart with the video? I think you do it so well, you probably forget. A lot of times when we watch videos that are produced and on TV for our youngest learners, the sounds that's teaching children are like "buh" and "puh" and So if you heard Christy saying it when she was tapping it, the sounds are very clipped. B, p, So just be careful when you're teaching these sounds or tapping these sounds with your children. You're not stretching it and adding a vowel to it.
Absolutely. I recommend to all the parents that I tutor to go to the YouTube channel and put it on. And I tell all of them that Miss Kristen just knows. She knows who's doing it. She knows who's not doing their homework. So that's the strategy that I use with the students that I tutor. And you can just sit next to your child. I'm sure as you listen to the way that the sounds are produced, you're going to learn a few things. I know when I first started, I never learned in all of my education, hundreds and hundreds of hours and dollars that C-I-C-E-C-Y, C followed by an I-E or Y said, never learned it. So you will learn things as well. And all of that is linked on the presentation as well. So I didn't actually think that my second grader at the time would even entertain tapping the chart. I kind of sat there, I'm sure like many of you, like, all right, Christy, sure. Here's the thing, and this is what I told my second grader. This is what I told all the fourth and fifth graders and third graders that I tutor. This is about training your brain. We are doing neuroscientist stuff here. You are literally rewiring your brain. This is an exercise to get your brain ready to read. It takes 1 minute to tap the chart. It's simple, it's easy, and we just get it done. So I absolutely challenge each and every one of you to implement this with fidelity. Use it with your child. Have them tap it every day. Put it somewhere obnoxious where they walk by it all the time, because they're going to walk by it and they're going to be singing it in their head. Every single child I have tutored, my own kids as well, once they got the rhythm of it, they were singing it in their head all the time. That rhythm and the movement with their finger develops an intensity which moves everything to long-term memory faster than just by showing them a flashcard. A says, ah. This method works, and it works so quickly that my 4-year-old was telling his grandma that the TCH says ch, just like CH says ch. My 4-year-old was correcting everyone, but he wasn't wrong. So I challenge you, try it with your child. Try this first. If you get the resources, it will tell you when to implement that second chart, the blend chart. Then you're going to continue on through the lessons. It'll tell you when to implement the teams chart and then the syllables chart. So with these charts, you can take these charts and you can make your own set of games with them. You can take this chart, print it off, cut it up. Now, if you have, before I get to that, I forgot to mention this. If you introduce this to your child and this whole page is so overwhelming, you can cut it up, cut the whole first strip up. You can cut it up, put it on a big manila folder. With the students that I was tutoring, I would put little sticky notes on each and every box. And each time we met, I would peel off 2 of them or 3 of them, depending on each child. They loved meeting on a Monday to find out what box they get to pick next and peel off that sticky note. It was like a treasure. And I honestly didn't think that that would be the level of engagement and how excited they would be to flip up something new. And that's okay, because we're just building that sound symbol connection. So if you start with just the first row, or maybe you cover everything up and just do the sounds that they know, each time you meet, you could pull off one more and continue to add that to the chart. But with that being said, I want to show you some of the games that we've made with the chart. So here is an example of a very simple game that I made. I just simply took the chart, I cut it up. I think one of the students I tutored colored it, and we just put it on here as a regular old board game. add in, some dice, and you can play it that way. You can also do it with some of the more complicated charts as well. So here's an example of the blends. And again, you can have your child color it. They can work on that. They can put it any way they want and structure that board game any way they want. You can also, in the resources, there are the chart, but they're bigger squares. So you can take these and simply cut them up to play a Go Fish game. So if we were playing a Go Fish game, and I'm getting out these ice cube trays because they are it's a very inexpensive way to hold the cards. But you can just put them right here. And then if I had M, I would say I have M, or I have excuse me, I have do you have map? Or I have apple, do you have a? And it's just a simple I have, you have game. And then I have one more game I want to show you today. Oh, here it is right here. It is a picture word match. Now this is really perfect for kids who really need a lot of vocabulary development. So what you can do is take these pictures right here. Oh, you can't see it because I didn't put it on the, there we go. You can take these pictures and you can talk about each of these. Really developing their language and their vocabulary is extremely important at this age. You can cut everything up and then it's just a very simple matching. So you can put all of the words right here, the pictures on this side, and then we'll start off with this word. And when we're reading it, we're going to use our arm because we have this arm. It's a tool for us to help us learn how to read. So we put this beginning sound right here. At, pot. Is that a pot? No, that's a dog itching his little face. Is this a pot? Oh, yeah, what do we put in a pot? And we can continue to build that rich language. And it's a very simple, just matching game. I can take this and just label it just like that. So I have a few extra minutes and I wanted to share with you while we're wrapping up, if you wouldn't mind taking a picture of this QR code for me. And go ahead and give me some feedback. Let me know how this workshop was. I am continually going to be modifying this. I'm doing another training just next week, and I will take those into consideration. But I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here with me tonight. I hope these games add a lot of value to your support with your child at home or even in the classroom. I'm going to stay on to answer questions. You can either write them in the chat or you can raise your hand, and we'll get to those in a minute. If you want, you're also welcome to just email me and we can either set up a time to talk or, correspond back and forth via email as well. So I also wanted to show you, this is not only linked in this presentation, it's also linked in the presentation that we'll send home tonight, but these are the games books that I was referring to that I used today during the workshop. So again, they're really low prep. It goes through a really great scope and sequence. So no matter what level you're teaching, what grade you're teaching, you're going to start off with that first lesson because you have to make sure that each child has the whole foundation. And oftentimes the first lessons are those short vowel sounds. Those short vowel sounds are about 50% of all syllable types. So if your child is not getting each short vowel precise, then they're going to be struggling with a lot of words all the way through their education. So taking the time to go all the way back and really solidify those short vowels is going to be extremely important. And lastly, I love this quote from Kristen, the founder of Brain Friendly Reading. When we assist children to be proficient in reading, it changes the trajectory of their lives, opening doors and opportunities. So I just love that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and open it up if anybody has any questions for me. Or Christy, I don't know if you saw any that that I could address now.
Able to answer as we went.
Okay. All right. Well,
What's the access? They are accessing these materials through the QR code.
through the QR code, and the presentation is being sent right after this. So you can even open up that presentation. It has the videos linked in it, and it also has all the QR codes. So if you don't want to do it right now, you can just shut it down for the night and you can refer to it later. So the tapping charts are part of those resources that I showed you on the Brain Friendly Reading page. You can buy the whole games book like I have right here and print it out. I linked you to the digital copies, but in there are the tapping charts. I also want to let you know that go ahead and check out that Brain Friendly Reading YouTube video or the YouTube channel. On there, it has a wealth of information. It has the essential videos to tapping the charts. So you don't have to be the one to produce those sounds, because we want to make sure that your child is really, like Christy had mentioned, making the correct sound for each of the sound symbol connections. On there, it actually has a ton of other information. If you're someone who's thinking, oh, my child is kind of showing some characteristics of dyslexia, there's a whole video on that. I also want to let you know that go ahead and look if this is something that's interesting to you, if this whole idea of how to teach it and how to implement it. Brain Friendly Reading actually has training programs, and you can become a tutor, you can enhance your skills. So go ahead and check that out. Oh, yes, and you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram as well. I know a lot of the certified tutors have started their own Instagram pages as well. And so if you follow the hashtag Brain Friendly Reading or tap the charts, you're going to find, hopefully, as this continues to grow, a lot of videos of other kids implementing this work, which is just super fun.
And Christy, a lot of your strategies you were talking about, and I know this was, but I do use these with 4th and 5th graders too. We play tic-tac-toe, we play Go Fish with the harder multi-syllable words or with phrases, and they like it. So it seems like it would be a little too young for them or cheesy, but they need the practice and they like it. And they're competitive.
Well, and I also think they are met with frustration so often in the classroom, and they get a whole text or they get a whole book and they feel defeated. Or they're given, you need to go find a just right book for yourself. And they can see that it might not match up with the person next to them. So playing these games is just a really non-threatening way. And I experienced the same thing. I sat there going, there's no way I'm going to get my child to play this. And then I started to tutor, and I was tutoring older kids thinking, I am not bought in. How am I going to get them to tap a chart? They would much rather tap a chart for 1 minute versus read one of the books that was sent home from school. And we call it training your brain. Right now, we're just training your brain. We're just training your brain. When met with resistance, we go back to the brain, and then they will go, oh, Miss Christy, you're telling me about my brain, and I'm touching all the parts of their brain. So that's what works for me. Go ahead and give it a try. I challenge you, and please come back to me, email me. I want to know your success from this, because I was absolutely blown away when I started to do this work at how quickly all of my students were learning letters and sounds and being able to read words and then write words. And then I'm just in awe. So share your success with us.
Thank you, Christy.
You're welcome. I'll stay on for another minute if anybody has anything else, but if not, I hope you have a great night and thank you so much for attending tonight.